I'm Massa Mohamed Ali, a third-year undergraduate student here at the University of Toronto, Mississauga. I am pursuing a specialist in neuroscience and a minor in professional writing and communication, and I'm a contributor to the medium. This week, I had the wonderful opportunity to speak with Dr. Wendy Suzuki, an internationally recognized neuroscientist and brain plasticity expert. We talk about her most recent book, Good Anxiety, and about how students can make the most of their years in school. I had a great time learning from Dr. Suzuki, and I hope you enjoy our discussion. All right, Dr. Suzuki, thank you so much for being here with us today. You are a professor of neuroscience and psychology in the Center for Neuroscience at NYU, and I'm so excited to be discussing your most recent book today, Good Anxiety. The power of harnessing the most misunderstood emotion. And this book is basically great for everybody. It is, regardless of which stage of life that they're at, it's a great book to just deal with everyday anxiety. But today I did want to focus on student anxiety and like students in particular, and from your expertise with students and undergrads and grads, and how they can manage their just everyday stress with school. But before I delve into that, I did want to briefly explain that idea of good anxiety, because I know a lot of students upon seeing it might be like, what is it? Can it be possibly good for me when I'm experiencing all these negative emotions all through?
Absolutely. So the reason why I call anxiety good is that from an evolutionary standpoint, anxiety and the underlying stress response evolved to protect us. It's actually critical for our survival. And so you can imagine, a woman 2.5 million years ago has a newborn baby in her arms collecting food, and suddenly she hears the crack of a twig. And that could be, a potential threat to her life. It causes anxiety, and it stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight system, where she's ready to either fight the potential threat or run away. And so that's exactly the same series of physiological responses that we have. Unfortunately, today we have the equivalent of twigs cracking every minute of every day with all the different, sources of anxiety that we have. And that is the reason why we're not feeling that anxiety is particularly protective for us. And so that is the core starting point. That is the origin story of this book. And I think that it's also one of the key elements that we'll be talking about, which is mindset. If you think anxiety is just this terrible, weight around your neck that you just want to get rid of and never see ever again, that's a very different mindset than thinking, okay, this actually can be helpful to me evolutionarily. It's been helpful to all of my, distant ancestors. How can I make it work for me? And she says it's actually critical for my survival. That sounds kind of important. How can I do that? So I'm asking everybody to shift their mindset around this emotion of anxiety. But the first step is that everybody, not just you, but all of the whole society, including me, needs to learn how to turn their anxiety levels down so that we can get to that protective zone. That's kind of the first step of the book.
Yeah, you do mention in your book actually an example that caught my attention of you helping a graduate student of yours get over that performance anxiety and establish that rhythm. And then you mentioned about how undergrads and grads just normally they're just too stressed to do well, whether if it on a performance or like a presentation or a test, and they're just too anxious that way. And then you mentioned some coping techniques and some tips and tricks for that. So I wanted you to expand on that idea, especially because a lot of students do go through that on a regular basis.
Absolutely. So in fact, one of the parts of the book that I'm most proud of is I wanted to make it very, very usable. And so the whole third part of the book, it's called How to Worry Well. And it's a whole toolbox of here is a whole wide variety of things that can help you turn those anxiety levels down. And everybody's a little bit different. They like different things. So I tried to really make this list as expansive as possible. But I do have my number one and number two that I go to that has such strong neuroscience behind it. Number one, immediate way to decrease your anxiety level is breath work. So breathing deeply, it sounds too simple, but it's actually very, very powerful because with deep breathing, you are literally activating your natural de-stressing part of your nervous system. And if you didn't know that you had a natural de-stressing part of the nervous system, I'm sure Massa, as a neuroscience major, will be able to tell you that the parasympathetic nervous system was evolved to bring us back into alignment after that fight or flight sympathetic part of the nervous system gets activated. So what does the de-stressing part of the nervous system do? It decreases our heart rate, decreases our respiration, and it shunts blood from our muscles to our digestive and reproductive organs. And so the best way to activate that part of the nervous system is deep breathing. That's what it does naturally. It is encouraging you to breathe slowly and deeply. And specifically, I recommend a boxed breathing technique where it's inhaling on a 4 count, holding at the top for 4 counts, exhaling on a 4 count, holding at the bottom for 4 count. It's a box in 4 counts, easy to remember. And when do you use it? Right before you're going to take an exam, right before you're going to have a big study session, so that you will do well on your exam. In the middle of a anxiety provoking conversation, you can do this. Nobody even knows that you're doing it. And so that's my number one. Again, science-based, activating your natural de-stressing part of the nervous system. Tip number two is something I've studied in my lab for many, many years, and that is movement. Moving your body is a natural de-stressor and anti-anxiety treatment, because every time you move your body, it's like you're giving your brain this wonderful bubble bath of neurochemicals, including neurochemicals you've heard of. Serotonin, noradrenaline, dopamine, endorphins are going up. And this has an immediate effect. We've seen in my lab immediate effects of moving your body. And these studies came from 30 minutes of working out, decreased anxiety, decreased depression, decreased hostility. Other studies have shown that you can get these effects in as little as 10 minutes of movement. Go take a 10-minute walk. It is very, very powerful, but the mechanism is the same. You are just giving your brain that wonderful, bubble bath of those chemicals. And those two are my number one and number two go-tos.
Those are definitely so great. I love them so much. They work so well. And you also, as part of your exercise research, you showed that it actually helps with long-term memory. So exercise itself helps you study essentially in the long term, because it helps generate those hippocampal neurons for you to actually be able to retain that long-term information more for a longer period of time. And it is so great because it works not only for your anxiety, but also for your memory as well, for sure. 100%.
Absolutely. And not just your memory. It is, so to study well, to write well, you need a good focused attention so you can get into your task and stay with it for a long time. And you need a great memory, as you just said. Well, it turns out that regular exercise is enhancing the functions of those specifically 2 brain areas, the prefrontal cortex, important for shifting and focusing your attention, and the hippocampus, critical for long-term memory. So it's a double dose that every student should be aware of. And that is my personal, especially my favorite brain structure is the hippocampus. So my personal motivation to get up and work out every morning is that I want the biggest, fattest, fluffiest hippocampus that I can get. And I know I'm headed towards that fat, fluffy hippocampus when I work out every morning.
For sure. And it's so interesting. It's mind blowing. But you mentioned attention and actually having that focus. And
Yes.
part of a major point that you touched on that also was so interesting to me was the idea of microflow and
Mm,
having that just flow and rhythm of focus and attention. Maybe not for the whole actual like original flow, but for a micro amount of time. And I actually started reflecting on that in my own life and how I started having those little microflow instances, and they are
uh-huh.
hopefully increasing. But I did want you to explain that just a little for those who don't know.
Yes. So I wanted to think about the role of anxiety in flow, because for those of you that don't know, flow is this amazing state where you are performing at your best and everything is going well, and it's like, one of those scenes in the movie where everything slows down and you look beautiful and everything is going well. That is like the visualization of a moment of flow. And in the original description by Dr. Csikszentmihalyi, the idea is that you are doing something that is at a very high level. You trained a long time to do this. It doesn't happen all the time, but at certain moments you can achieve this, flow state. And for me, I always picture Yo-Yo Ma, because I am a very, very beginning student of cello, and I think of him playing occasionally at Carnegie Hall and getting this moment of flow. And so that's a beautiful image. However, I think, oh my God, I'm never going to have flow. I'm not Yo-Yo Ma. I don't have those moments. And not only that, but there's clear evidence that anxiety nixes flow. If you're suffering from anxiety, you cannot achieve that flow state. It's just kind of mucks up the work. And so I'm thinking about this. How do I write about it? What do I want to say about it? And I'm in this yoga class, and really enjoyed the yoga class, and I felt really good, got a really good yoga workout in there. And I'm in the last pose, which is corpse pose, shavasana. So I am in shavasana, and it suddenly came to me that I am doing shavasana better than anybody is doing shavasana, or just as well. I am flowing in shavasana. Shavasana always is too short by definition. And so I thought, okay, I had this realization. I'm flowing. This is a moment of flow, but it's shorter. It's not exactly what I pictured from the classic definition, but that this is what I wanted to focus on in the book. Why? Because everybody has a moment of micro flow. It's the appreciation of it. I flow in shavasana because I do it so well. I lay on the ground as well as anybody could lay on the ground. I have a moment of micro flow when I make my green smoothie in the morning, because I love it. I think it's delicious. I've refined the ingredients so it's perfect for my taste. That is another moment of microflow. And in fact, as I think you're discovering, I have microflow all the time, and I didn't even realize it. And so that is very important to have. And the reason why I call it a superpower is that there's a concept in psychology called the negative contrast effect, which basically says that the good times in life are even better when you have those bad times to contrast it. If your whole life is good, that just becomes norm, right? It's really good because there's these more difficult times. And so microflow becomes a superpower of anxiety, because anxiety are difficult times. These are moments of anxiety that I certainly experience, where they're difficult emotions that I feel, which makes my flow during shavasana feel even flowier, and my flow during my green smoothie even flowier. So that is one of the superpowers of anxiety.
Yeah, it is. It is really a superpower. And for me, I think a lot of students might relate to this. And I do want a lot of students to reflect on that themselves. For me, it was this realization hit after reading that chapter last Thursday, I had a neuroplasticity class, and I love the class. And I just always just sit and watch because it's on Zoom. And I have a little bit of anxiety with like asking questions or just
Yeah.
like in general participating in class. But that class, after reading your chapter, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take initiative and ask questions. So I did, and for 2 hours just flew by.
Yeah.
And after it ended, I realized I was in a state of microflow, and
Ah,
it was just flowing, all the ideas. I can feel the neurons just working. It was all just a different feeling. And I was like, wow, like that is, I wouldn't have realized that it was a state of flow had I not read your term. And I'm so glad that you came up with it, because like the bigger general term is a little bit obviously more difficult to achieve, but hopefully we will get that one day. Um, One of the last things I wanted to touch on is that you described that before your 40th birthday, you described yourself as a bundle of nerves, anxious, worried, and running on fumes. And
yeah.
when I read that, I paused a little, and I was like, that is a lot of students right now. Not just you. Like, it's a repetitive pattern that we will get through different stages of life. And it's that what if, basically.
Yeah.
What if I don't get into grad school? What if I don't get that GPA? What if
Yeah.
I don't do well? What if I don't like the career I chose? What if I don't get it in the first place? It's a
Yeah.
lot of what ifs, but you talk about turning those what ifs into
Yeah.
to-do lists and
Right.
being productive with them. So if you
Exactly.
don't mind expanding on that idea, please.
Yeah, so that is, I think, one of the most straightforward, or not straightforward, but easiest to understand of the superpowers that comes from anxiety. Why? Because everybody has that what if list, as you just beautifully illustrated. What if I don't get the grade that I need? What if I don't like the job? What if I'm not good enough to be whatever I'm supposed to be? All these what ifs. And the superpower that came from that was really inspired by a lawyer that I met while I was writing the book. And I said, well, I'm writing a book on anxiety. And she said, oh, well, I am the high paid lawyer that I am because of my anxiety. And I said, oh, please tell me your secret. And she said that she'd always suffered from anxiety, and that she had this tool, that all of those worries, that, and this is in the context of her work and her case, she's got, what if she loses the case? What if, and then they take away her partnership, and, it gets escalated as you get even older. And she said she takes every single one of those what ifs and she turns them into a to-do list. And that made her a more effective lawyer. And you might say, well, I mean, how do you do that? What if it's an existential crisis? What if I'm not good enough? How are you going to turn that into a to-do? And I would say anything you could act on. If you don't think you're good enough, my assignment for you is first go talk to your most positive friend and ask them to tell you what are your best characteristics. A friend that is very positive. Number two, go and ask for coaching from your favorite professor or leader that is in the direction that you want to go in your career. Everybody's flattered if you ask for help that way. Another great thing that you can do to help quell that what if I'm not good enough? Well, go out and get as much information as you can. And that helps satisfy, that helps quench that anxious feeling, because anxiety developed to have an action put on it. We fight or run away. That is a physical action. And so by first making the to-do list and then doing that very satisfying, checking it off, I did talk to this person, I did talk to that person, really helps you feel like, okay, that anxiety is taken care of.
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely. It's the to-do list, I realize, is such a good coping technique as well. And it helps you just be productive.
Yes.
And I know we are running out of time, but your last final note for students and your advice to them, overall and their whole schooling journey. What is one piece of advice that you'd like to say from your expertise with working with them and with their anxiety, etc.?
I think the message that I would give is, everybody right now take 1 minute, all students out there, take 1 minute to think about what is joyful to you about the learning that you're doing in this endeavor. You're all in this wonderfully inspiring endeavor of educating yourself. And sometimes it spirals down to, what do I have to do? Learn this. Is this going to be on the test? Is that going to be on the test? But the joy and the inspiring part is what you get to learn. What are you appreciating learning? And remember to ask yourself that, because I think that could put a whole new lens and mindset on why you're there, why you're putting this effort in. And it is great effort that you're putting in, but there is a reason. Tell yourself why, remind yourself why. That's what I would say.
I love that. Love that so very much. Thank you so much for today, Dr. Wendy Suzuki. And I can't wait to hear more about your research and to hopefully build on it in the future.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to welcoming you in the neuroscience research community.
Yay. Thank you so very much.
Okay.
Thank you so much for watching my interview with Dr. Suzuki. I hope you were as inspired and intrigued as I was. Feel free to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and to subscribe to the Medium's channel. Good luck with all your future endeavors, and may your anxiety always be good. Take care.